On September 5, 2010, more than 600 alumni, campers, and parents from around the world returned to Habonim Dror Camp Moshava to celebrate 75 years of Mosh magic. The day began with a brunch to raise funds for the camp. Among the speakers was Rabbi Stuart Weinblatt, who was a camper from 1966 to 1969 and a counselor in 1972.
The very first time that I took the bus to go to camp, I was dropped off at Reisterstown Road Plaza. I'll have to show them. And anyway, I was dropped off at Reisterstown Road Plaza, not knowing anyone, and I was sitting by myself thinking, what am I doing here, and where am I going? My parents had heard about the camp from others, from cousins of mine, and they thought it would be a good experience for me. But I was never consulted on the decision, and I suddenly found myself on that bus. So, I want you to know, I told my friends back home when they said, so Stuart, where are you going? I said to them, I'm going to be away for a few weeks. I'm going to some camp outside of Annapolis. The next summer, I was able to tell those same friends I was going to a Jewish camp outside of Annapolis. And then finally, the next year, I was able to say, without any hesitation, that I was going to be at Habonim Camp Moshava. Now, there was a definite progression there, and in many respects, that progression reflects my confidence in saying that I was going to this camp. It reflects my deepening Jewish identity, my growing sense of Jewish pride, to which I really owe Moshava a debt of thanks. So getting off that bus on that first day, I still vividly recall how cool all the madrikim looked, in their cut-off shorts and just wonderful spirit. And as the luggage was being tossed around and then distributed, I immediately sensed there was something different about this place. Immediately, I felt a sense of community, a sense of cooperation, that everyone belonged, and that somehow we were all in it together. At lunch, I remember, everyone applauded some announcement in Hebrew, and of course I couldn't understand a word of what was just said. So I asked my madrik at the table what had been told, and I soon found out that the applause was for the fact that the eggs we had been served had come from our lul, from the pen, from our chicken, right there at camp. And everybody was so excited about that. Well, by the end of the first day, I had found and had met a whole new set of friends. And in a short period of time, my Hebrew vocabulary grew from one word, the Seder, which got me through years of Hebrew school, to a whole expansive vocabulary, because we were immersed in Hebrew, and we lived it, and it surrounded it, and perhaps even more important than anything, it instilled with me the desire to become fluent in Hebrew, to learn more about this language, which is so beautiful, and which is ours. So, all of you are here, and you know the sense of enthusiasm, the sense of ruach that we had at camp. There was nothing like a rainy day to have us singing at the top of our lungs for hours on end. On one of my first nights, we had so much fun running around, playing a variation on a game, a jazzed-up version of Capture the Flag. And of course, it was called Aliyah Bet. And later, that night, I still remember, as we were having snacks, our madrik told us that this game we had just played, where we were trying to sneak Jews into the land of Israel, past the British and around the Arabs, was something that actually had happened. Just like that. If only it were that easy. Just imagine, if only we could go into a prison and say, Chofshi, Chofshi, right? And everybody should try it sometime. Anyway. But that was the Moshe way. The Moshe way was to teach us, without realizing we were learning, was to teach us through experiential things about important lessons, about the state of Israel, about Zionism, about how important it is for each and every one of us to be involved in that. Now, as you know, we were modeled after the kibbutz, and we all learned to share through kuppah. And there was that sense of community that we had as a result. I can still remember the asefot, the meetings we had, which would go on for hours, and we would argue, discussing what kind of kuppah we would have that year. Would it be Tzrif Kupa, Machaneh Kupa, Shikva Kupa? And regardless of the outcome, somehow we all felt we had a say in the decision. Somehow we learned about democracy by actually personally participating in it. That was the most way. Teaching by doing. We always started the day, of course, with avodah, with work, based on the principles of Aleph Dalet Gordon, where we all were involved in doing something around the machaneh. No one was exempt. And it just so happens that when I was a Madrid, I had the most popular avodah project of all. All of the kids wanted to be with me. And that's because I was in charge of ashpa, collecting the trash around the camp. Only at Moshe would the guy in charge of ashpa, collecting trash, be the most popular guy. Now there was a certain energy, a certain creativity that we had about everything we did. And best of all, we never took ourselves too seriously. I remember even just coming in today, I just couldn't help but smile as I saw the sign on the road. It said speed bumps, as if it's really necessary. Anyway. And then I remember how excited everyone was because we were told that we had to have general nikayon. Now general nikayon, the word nikayon of course means cleaning up, clean up. So we were having general nikayon, and when my madrid told me we had to get ready for general nikayon, I asked, was he one of the generals who fought in the 6-Day War? The camping trips we had, the camping trips taking us outside of camp, had this wonderful way of bonding us even closer together. And best of all, who can ever forget Friday night? Shabbat was absolutely beautiful. We would all be dressed in white. The only day of the week we would all be clean. We would welcome Shabbat going down to the Chof, down to the dock, near the water, and it was followed by a great dinner, the most delicious chicken soup I've ever had, with shirah, with song, with rikudim, as a special peaceful spirit permeated the entire machaneh. An atmosphere of Shabbat which to this very day I long for, and wish somehow it would be possible to replicate. The camp had its own special rhythm. There were Saturdays when we of course had the Mitzchak HaGadol, the big game, the softball game of campers against counselors, followed by the Midurah, the campfire, where as you heard, I first learned how to perform before a live audience. In fact, I used to do stand-up comedy. It was very hard because they would try and accommodate me, but I would always try and ask if they could have a fire next to me. And they never allowed that. But anyway, and then of course Sunday night was movie night. But there would be surprises along the way. Special days such as Yom Capitalism, or any of the other attempts to educate, and some would say indoctrinate us, with the ideals of Habonim. So, I don't know how to describe it, but to this day, I'm sure some of you have had that same experience. When you meet somebody that you've never known before, who was part of Habonim, or who went to Moshe, there's this special connection you have, an instant bond, regardless of the age difference that may exist, the geographic distance, and somehow you know they're a special kind of person, and that deep down, they share some of the same values. At Moshe, I learned how being Jewish can be so richly rewarding. Well, I'm going to give the whole speech all over again, just for you. At Moshe, I learned that being Jewish is exciting and it's vibrant. At Moshe, I learned the importance of Zionism and of each of us being a part of that enterprise. I learned the importance of values such as community, sharing, caring for others, tikkun olam, our responsibility to work and to make the world a better place. Now I want to close by telling you that one of my favorite songs is from the Broadway show, The Chorus Line, and it's called At the Ballet. I love that song because in contrast to the miserable daily existence of the people who were in the chorus line, they each recalled how they had this one special place, this one place where they could go to, and somehow everything was beautiful. That place where they could excel, where they would be accepted for who they were and not be judged. Now, not that life was miserable the rest of the year for me by any means, but I think of Moshe as that beautiful haven, That place where we were all loved unconditionally. That place where we had fun and were in a different world. That place where we grew and we matured. Where we learned the important values and life lessons which have endured and have become a part of who and what we are. And although, as most of you know, Moshe was probably one of the dirtiest places any of us have ever lived in. Thank you, was it done? I'm grateful for having been asked to share today, to be able to recall and share with you some of my memories about Moshe, a place where truly everything was beautiful, truly, truly beautiful at Moshava.